So, hello. This is the daily Bible study. This is my first time doing a YouTube channel, quote unquote. I'm not good at this. My best friend is far more tech savvy when it comes to YouTube than I am. But this is a channel that I'm going to start doing and making videos and posting them once a day of the daily devotional. I have a couple workbooks that I'm going to talk out of. The first one I'm going to talk out of is called Stronger Still, A Woman's Guide to Turning Your Heart into Healing for Others. It's this book. So I got it at a Christian bookstore. I think it was Books A Million. I don't know, but it was like less than $8. So if you would like to find it, go to a Christian bookstore and you can find it. But today's devotion is called The Difference. The Lord your God will bless you in all your harvest and in all the work of your hands, and your joy will be complete. Deuteronomy 16:15. There's a big difference between dreamers and doers. Doers live out their dreams, while dreamers constantly talk about how they will one day change the world. But it never gets beyond idle talk. The problem with most dreamers is their desire for control, predictability, and security. The Roman philosopher Tacitus said the desire for safety always stands in the way of the good intentions of those who merely dream of changing the world. Doers are very different from dreamers. Doers never sleep through their dreams. They constantly search for the fastest and most effective route between the vision that God placed in their hearts and their hands and feet. Doers give body to their dreams. Their calling is to take God's people forward and closer to the manifestation of His vision. Therefore, doers are brave individuals who don't allow believers to fall into spiritual comfort zones. They are not interested in winning any spiritual popularity contests or in being the center of attention. No, they fulfill their calling by empowering others to give wings to the vision that God placed in their hearts through His Spirit. So then, are you a dreamer or a doer? See, me and my best friend have talked about that. And it's not so much of a dreamer or a doer. We've always talked about, pessimistic and optimistic. I guess it's the same thing, kind of. But I've always been a dreamer up until recently when I started getting back into my routine of reading the Bible, getting workbooks, getting a daily devotional journal that I have. This, daily devotional that I just read, I read them every day. So it's kind of helped me fall back from being a dreamer into working towards being a doer. Not everyone is perfect in that aspect, but it's helped me come back from a lot of things that have happened in my past. But are you a dreamer or a doer? Do you go out and get things done without worrying about what everybody's doing, or do you constantly think about it? I do a little both, not even gonna lie. I'm a dreamer and a doer when I have the motivation to do it. So, let's get into this workbook. I bought them like a couple weeks ago, and I just finally opened them. I haven't even read them fully. So, we're going to do it together. I know it's for women, and I know it's, for the females and the women and the girls and the little girls who want to listen. But if they're males that it actually sticks out to them, then you're more than happy to do it too. Everyone's allowed to do it. But anyways, Unit 1 is experiencing the pitfalls of real life. Face it, we don't live in a stable universe. As long as we live on this planet, it will be rushing through space at greater than warp speed. The spinning Earth is divided into giant plates, each containing vast continents or oceans. The shaft beneath our feet is causing earthquakes, floods, and volcano eruptions. As the earth spins on its axis, our lives are also spinning. Sometimes it makes no sense. Though we accept the chaotic macroism as a scientific fact, we fall to perceive it realistically because we're too busy with the care of the world. Matthew 13:22, New King James Version. Humans have a tradition, corporately and individually, of trying to build a rational world, a solid society with rules everyone obeys. As one who lives on this earth, you've inherited this legacy. You've also inherited the legacy of the fall. Since Adam and Eve, you have had ancestors for generations who were sinful from beginning, as Psalms 51:5 says. As much as possible, you try to live a good life and avoid sin. It's easy to slip into the bad habits of human social life. You buy land, build a home, collect possessions, and save money as if you believe you will live forever on earth. But that assumption is unrealistic. You live in a precarious world, since I can't spell or read. Precarious world, which is reflected in our own little microisms, where you live through one crisis after the other. However, God brings hope to each human heart. He who created the world still orders it. He brings order out of chaos just as he did as creation. As you did this unit, remember, you're important to God. He's the source of all love. Since he is love, 1 John 4:16b, he wants to give you his peace, comfort, and the revelation of truth. He created truth for all the people, and you can see it through other obedient Christians. If you don't like to be one of those mature, contented, strong Christians, if you'd like to become one of those strong, mature, contented, strong Christians, then read on. Sorry, I had to rephrase. I read that wrong. O Lord of all, why must I hurt? Why don't I ever understand? I wonder how you run this world. When it is changing, shifting sand, I know you hear me listening, Lord. I trust it's steady in your hand. This is by E. So, that was the beginning of Unit 1, Experiencing the Pitfalls of Real Life. Now we're going to read on to the actual study, the first Bible study, which is Holy Coincidences, God is Matter. It says, this book focuses on one major premise. God is master of the universe. He proves his sovereignty continuously in daily life. Jack and Sharon Fields McCormick are typical Americans who fell in love, married, and moved to a nice neighborhood. Though Sharon and Jack had faith in God, both of them accepting Jesus as their personal savior, they pursued secular jobs. Jack was a management with a construction company, and Sharon finished her master's degree in counseling and worked for a mental health facility. Each earned more than an adequate salary. They owned a big brick home on a large acreage, 2 cars and a pickup truck, a pool, a boat, and a motorcycle, along with other luxuries. Soon they bought a motor home, planning extended travels around the country. While the McCormicks were acquiring expensive possessions, their church was building their faith. They became tithers and gave extra offerings to special causes, especially missions endeavors. On a chance encounter, they heard of a training event for disaster relief in the next county. They drove over to learn that it, perhaps to share with their Sunday school class later. At the training conference, they learned of an urgent need in the U.S. for men knowledgeable in construction and for women who had counseling skills. Volunteers would need a motor home to provide their own lodging. This information pierced their hearts, and it was the beginning of a holy coincidence. Sharon and Jack returned to church the next Sunday when their pastor preached a mission sermon. When they left, Jack said, "It was all I could do to keep from running down the aisle to volunteer." Sharon turned to him. I held onto the pew in front of me. I wanted to make a commitment to mission too. She turned aside, then back to face him. "Oh my goodness, Jack, I think God's calling us to be missionaries." They visited the pastor that week, telling us what to do. They said, he laughed. "You want me to tell you what God is saying to you?" he asked. They realized how misdirected their request was, and the next day they announced in front of their congregation they were going to be missionaries. After receiving training, they sold their home in 4 days, furniture and vehicles, and went to war. War, West Virginia, was the poorest town in the poorest county in Appalachia. Setting up their motorhome, they began organizing hundreds of volunteers from all over the U.S. who came to fight poverty. They learned to depend on God alone for support since they had gone from 2 lucrative salaries to none. Reflecting back, Sharon S. Fields McCormick at Prodigy.net saw that God had miraculously taught them to trust, to discern God's will for their lives, and to receive power for Him to act on His will. And a couple of questions says, have you ever experienced a holy coincidence? If so, tell what happened. And if you would like, you can answer that question and answer it in the comments below. And it says, share your story with a friend. So if you would like to answer that question, then just comment below. The question is, have you ever experienced a holy coincidence? If so, tell what happened. And then there is these 20 steps. This is a long unit. I haven't even read this yet, so this is going to be a long video. 20 steps to understanding God as master. 1, God created the universe. 2, if He created it, then He owns it. Is sovereign over it, the master of all. 3, if God is master of all, then He's master, not only of all nature, but also of all people. 4, if He's master of all people, then since you're a person, He's your personal master, ruler, director, teacher. 5, if God is your personal sovereign master, He rules over your circumstances and your heart. 6, if He rules your circumstances, then you can trust Him to take care of you. If you trust God to take care of you, you don't have to worry about anything. 8, if you don't worry, you have God's peace in your heart. 9, if God's peace rules your heart, you know He wants an intimate personal relationship. See more about this concept in study 3. So we'll see more and talk more about that within the next couple of days. 10, if you've invited Him to have a personal relationship with you, He gives you joy, passion for life. 11, if God gives you a passion for certain things in life, then He's filling you with desire to serve Him. 12, if He fills you with the desire to serve Him, He'll show you how to serve Him. 13, if God shows you how to serve Him, He'll empower you to do His will. 14, if He empowers you to serve Him, you'll get opportunities of a lifetime to be a part of God's plan for the world. 15, if you become a part of His plan for the world, since you've been created in His image, Genesis 1:27, then you will be more like God every day. Become more like God every day. 16, if you become more like God, He lives within you and you live in Him. Heart or spirit, soul, and body. 17, if you live in Him, you'll live a spirit life and approach spiritual maturity. 18, as you approach spiritual maturity, you'll see spiritual occurrences in everyday life. 19, as you see spiritual occurrences, you absorb the will and heart of God. 20, as you absorb the ultimate will and heart of God, you move into heaven to be with Him. If you believe God created the world, then all other miracles of God, as His Spirit moves over the face of the earth, are easy to believe. You accept that He's the sovereign master of the world you live in. You know He controls all coincidences and indeed every incident in your life. The word coincidence begins with the Latin prefix co, joined, working in tandem, as in cooperative and coordinate. He's the co-pilot of all your incidents. Everything you control your life free. Will, children, work situation, habits, and relationships. As you voluntarily relinquish these to Him, He brings peace and joy and order to your life. Look at the 20 steps above again. Think back to what I said. Which ones are the hardest for you to understand? Write what you might do to understand God better. So like I said, if you want to, write them. or I can take a picture of them and post them in the comments below, or post them on my Instagram page that I'm going to start, and you can go back and forth and copy and paste as you wish. But I can do that and take a picture of them for you from the book if you would like. Sovereign Master of all order. Since God brings order to everyday life, you can depend on life to be predictable, right? Wrong. You, like everyone else, experience the breathlessness of daily surprises. Sometimes you think they're good, sometimes bad. Christians and others react in two ways to daily events, intuitively and logically. Some Christians seem able to foresee surprises. If you're an intuitive person, you may experience surprises before they occur because of certain laws of nature, unexplained feelings, or uncanny dreams. You may say you've experienced Murphy's Law. That is, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. For example, no matter which checkout line you stand in at the grocery store, it's always the longest. Whether negative or positive, if you're a Christian, you're always alert to discern spiritual matters, looking for miracles. Not from chance, astrological signs, or feelings, but from God. A second way Christians react to the world's unpredictable surprises is with logic. You may have no intuition whatsoever, reacting cognitively, I can't say that word, cognitively with a logical explanation for every miracle before you. God has to wake you up to spiritual matters because you ignore them most of the time. I'll admit that right now. I ignore a lot of spiritual things a lot of times. Spiritual matters. So I am at fault with that too. Whether you tend to be a spiritual, intuitive person or a logical thinking person, you can't deny there's more to life than the physical universe. God speaks to us in many ways. God's ever-present presence. Nature. How could anyone deny that an intelligent designer created the universe? God produced multicolored flowers to bloom spontaneously on a remote mountainside and in dry deserts. God says, the mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and all of the trees of the field will clap their hands, Isaiah 55:12. All nature is a manifestation of his handiwork. Music. God has given the world a special touch of music, which has charms to soothe the savage beast within us. Ronnie King, my cousin, once told me he hardly remembered what the pastor said in the sermon, but he was always touched by the music. His words impressed me because I'd rarely been moved by music, but loved thought-provoking sermons. God has provided both to teach us with his message, Psalms 150. The Word. John states it succinctly. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. John, of course, is describing the Logos Greek for Word. But in addition to the scriptures God gave us, he refers to the Logos as Jesus, who was present at creation and later was incarnate in the first century. You often hear Christians say God's Word comes alive as they read the Bible. Perhaps you've had the experience of reading scripture randomly and then one line stands out, calling your attention. It speaks to your heart at its deepest level. I've had that many, many times reading the Bible. Many times. Other humans. Sometimes God speaks through sermons, discussions, radio programs, or a short phrase spoken by a godly Christian friend in a passing moment. You may not be paying attention, but suddenly the spoken word comes alive in others' words. You recognize it as God, not them. Direct revelation. During moments of meditation, sometimes God impresses on you a certain phrase or sentence that paces through your mind, persisting until you notice it. You realize God is revealing his plan, something you can do or pray as you fulfill his will for your life. Circumstances. The most outstanding way God can work to surprise you with his presence is through changing circumstances in your days. You get a hint of God's sovereignty as you experience what I call holy coincidences. That is, something happens that seems purely coincidence, yet you later realize God was working out a holy moment in his will for your life. You may say, it was a God thing. Many Christians, like the McCormicks, can give you examples of these holy coincidences. A flat tire leads to a witness at the top tire shop. An accident leads doctors to discover and prevent a more serious physical problem. Or a disaster turns out to be the best blessing of your life. Oswald Chamber calls these parentheses. See more about parentheses or holy coincidences in study 14. So we will get there. He says God interrupts your busy day with a parentheses, and then you move on, but afterwards you may never be the same. Eminem, mystery, and missions moment. Do you believe the 20 steps to understanding God as master? Whether you tend to be intuitive or logical, God finds unique ways to reach you. He reveals step by step his presence in your life. However you perceive him, accept his will. Let his love flow out, though a holy moment this week. So that was study 1. And that was the end. So I'm guessing taking from that holy, sorry, I'm just reading back and forth. Holy coincidences are more of, I gotta use this as a bookmark, more of a leaning on God, or as it says, something happens just purely coincidence, yet you later realize God was working out a holy moment in his will for your life. So even for me, I guess I'll answer the questions at the end. That way, everybody else can follow along. And the first question was, have you ever experienced a holy coincidence? If so, tell what happened. Well, see, a holy coincidence that I have actually experienced was actually when I became pregnant. It was not something that was planned, nor was it ever wanted by me or the Father. So I guess in the end, whenever that did happen, it not only made me grow as a person, but also want to grow more as a human being, because I was having to take care of somebody else smaller. Sorry, I have to get a drink. Smaller to me. So I guess for me, that was my holy coincidence. Was me becoming a mom. Because at that time, I had just gotten out of the military. I was going through all the heartache. I was going through my troubles. I was going through my trials and tribulations, as everybody goes through and does. So for me, I guess that was my holy coincidence, because he was working my daughter into my life for a reason, and I couldn't be more blessed with being a parent than I am now, and I have 3, so it is quite the joyride. So the second question is, look at the 20 steps above. Which ones are hardest for you to understand? The one or a couple of them, because I've already read this first unit. I was just reading out loud for you guys to follow. The ones that stick out for me, that's hardest for me, is number 6. If he rules your circumstances, then you can trust him to take care of you. Sometimes circumstances have a twist, and the devil likes to twist those circumstances. In some aspects, I have a problem with trusting God to lead me where he wants me to go. Not saying I falter and fall back and go backwards. I just have a problem trusting him, and that's something that I have to work on. And then also 8, if you don't worry, you have God's peace in your heart. I'm a worrywart. I worry. You can ask my kids, you can ask my mom, you can ask my dad, shoot, you can even ask my best friend. I'll just worry over the simplest things. I've got to stop doing that. I've got to just let it be and just leave it alone. So those are the main ones that I have problems with and hard to understand. For me personally, I don't know about anybody else. And it says, write what you might do to understand God better. What I would do to understand God better is to take a deeper look within myself, do these Bible studies, help others, but also read and understand as I'm reading to you and understanding how it applies in my life. So not only is me reading these to you now is helping you, but it is also helping me in my walk with God because I have problems with that. So it's kind of a back and forth thing for me, but I'm doing the best I can every day. I have a great, amazing Christian best friend, and he helps when he can. So I appreciate that. Also, at the end of every Bible study, we do our daily devotional, and then we go into the Bible study, and then I'll end with some encouraging words. The cat was jumping over the thing. It was weird. Encouraging words for any women or girls that are doing that, because I'm a woman, and I actually found this. It's called Daily Devotional Encouraging Words for Women. But like I said, it can apply to anybody. It's not just men. The God of Impossible Situations is today's encouraging words before I end this. The Red Sea in front, mountains on two sides, the armies of Egypt bearing down from behind, no visible means of escape. That's the situation where children of Israel found themselves. Their predicament was a total surprise, for after all, Pharaoh had just let the people leave Egypt, saying, "Good riddance." Unfortunately, after the people left, the Egyptian king had a change of heart. Suddenly, Pharaoh realized he had just fired his labor force, and he wanted them back. You probably know the story. God miraculously blew back the waters of the Red Sea so that his people could cross on dry land. Can you imagine the on cloud nine joy of God's people as they stood on the other shore of the Red Sea, safe from their enemies? A song of praise surged from their hearts. I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. Exodus 15:1-2. Notice the phrase, he is my God. The God they were singing about was the God who had brought the 10 miraculous, though miserable plagues on the Egyptians in order to move Pharaoh's heart, to let them leave Egypt. But now he was also the God of the Red Sea crossing. They now knew the miracle-working God was their God. Israel had God of the impossible situation on their side. What kind of God do you have today? Is he the God of the impossible? An old gospel chorus based on a song written during the building of the Panama Canal says, "God, any rivers you think are uncrossable. Got any mountains you can't tunnel through. God specializes in things thought impossible, and he can do what no other one can do." You too can say, he is my God. If you offer him the throne of your life, he will give you his guidance when you face the Red Sea of the impossible situation. He will be your God too. So we are going to end it on this Bible verse that says, "If you can," said Jesus, "everything is possible for one who believes." So like we talked about, the holy coincidences, basically kind of flows right with each other, actually. From the devotion, which is the difference, are you a doer or I forget what it was. A doer or a dreamer. There it is. I had to think about it for a second. Are you a doer or a dreamer? And then holy coincidence, and then God is God. So I hoped the talk and the Bible studies help. It helps me on a daily, but I also have a few really good friends that help me. Should you need someone to talk to, you're more than happy to message me or comment, and I will comment me your email, and I will email you and give you some encouraging things every day. I'll have to like write down everybody's email because I won't remember. But I'm going to start doing these on a daily. That way it not only helps me, but it's helping you. So I hope these helped, and God bless, and see you tomorrow.